Welcome to the Wayne Bennett Podcast, celebrating West Virginia's people, places, and the culture of Southern Appalachia. Now here's your host, Wayne Bennett.
Welcome to Wayne Bennett's Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Bennett, and this is episode 144. It is July the 18th, 2024. We're taping this. And our guest today is a longtime coach at Independence High School and Stoco Jr. High, Mr. Scotty Cuthbert. Glad to have you here, Scotty.
Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you asking me here.
Now, your dad's name was Scotty, wasn't it?
Yes.
He played baseball in that Raleigh County League, I guess. It was, for years, I saw some old newspaper archives. He played for Lilybrook and Helen or Amigo. And is he the one that got you into sports?
Yeah. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, I started going to practice with him. And they had me out there catching ground balls and fly balls when I was 6 or 7 years old in their batting practice. That was about 1956, 57.
Now, he played a long time.
He played till he was 38 when we had to leave Beckley for a job. But he played with Lilybrook, Coal City, Amigo, and it was like every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, wherever you played, all the parents, the wives would fix food and stuff like that. And it was just like wherever you were at that time was just like a big picnic. And it was really competitive. It was really, really good baseball. At that time, Dad always said there was quite a few people that could actually probably play pro baseball, but they couldn't give up their job because there was no money. They couldn't take the chance to go away into play and actually.
And the pros didn't pay much at all.
Yeah, it was pretty good. He always talked about a pitcher from Amigo. He said Lefty Tudor said he could have pitched for anybody. Dad went to an all-star game in Huntington and batted against Lou Burdett. He said Burdett wasn't half as good as Lefty.
Well, you talking about competitive. Williamson had Stan Musial come in and played a little bit, and some of them used to play up there where old Raleigh Motor Sales was.
That was the Raleigh Clippers. That was the team that played there. Dad played against them. That was right where the big place is up there. That was their baseball field.
At one time, just around here, I think there was like 30 teams, and then it started fading because of some of the coal mines started closing down. And what kind of work did your dad do? You said
he actually did work in the coal. He tried to work in the coal mines a little bit, but he sold insurance. Back then, your insurance. He had a route where you sold the policies, and then you had to go make the collections every month. There wasn't any computer stuff like that, so it was, you had people that said they'd buy the insurance, and in tough times they'd want to fold it, and he didn't make his money unless he could keep these policies going. So sometimes he would pay the policy for people, and he'd be bringing stuff home that they give him so they could keep their policy for another month or so. But so it was a big difference then.
Now, where did you live when you lived in Coal City area?
Where the old Stoco High School is. You come around the curve. There used to be an IGA grocery store. We lived right there in front of the grocery store. My dad and his dad, they built the houses right there back in the night. Well, it was built, and I was born in 1950, so they built it about right in there. See, the Scotty he came from Scotland. He was born in Scotland, and he came over when he was 8 years old, and so his name was Robert. It didn't have anything to do with Scotty either. My name is David, so the nickname was, he was Big Scotty, and I was Little Scotty's. Where it came from is because he was born in Scotland.
Oh, but now you got a son, Scott.
I named him because I knew he was going to be the next Scott, so he is actually Scott.
Yeah.
And then the other son is Mark, David, but that's how he got his name too. So that's where the Scotty come from. They were.
And when your dad came over from Scotland, what did his parents do?
Well, they landed in Chicago, and they worked in the factories for a while. There was two families, Cuthberts. They were distant relations. They came together, and then when they come down to Coal City, they worked in the coal mines.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, what about your mom? Where was she?
She's from Gray Flats. She went to Beckley, and actually she's related to the Questenberrys, that Rosa Questenberry. Her dad And the Questenberries, Run Roast to Questenberry, I'm not exactly sure. There was a bunch of brothers there, and he was, Amos might have been his uncle, or vice versa. So that's where she lived. You know where the Beckley Stratton is, all the way out the end past the soccer fields?
Uh-huh.
Their home place was out there. She said she would have to walk down to the road to catch the bus.
What was her last name?
Questenberry.
Her name was Questenberry.
Yeah, she was Questenberry.
Well, that's where I was born.
Yeah,
and
in Great Flats.
Yeah. And actually, where you cut in to go to Beckley Stratton, there used to be an old brown house sit right there, and that's where I was born. And there was Ivan Questenberry, and
Ivan is related.
Yeah.
Ivan's daddy was my mama's uncle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, but darn.
She said they lived way out at the end of Great
They lived
Flats.
at the very end.
Okay, so because she said she had to walk, a lot of times her brothers would have to help walk her, down to where they kept the bus out there, I guess at the main road,
Yeah, you had Sylvia School was the closest.
Yeah.
It was a mile and a half to get to the main road.
Well, no, that's what she said. It was tough,
Or who was your first coach in sports?
Well, actually, as far as a true coach, we left because of the job. We had to go to. I spent 6 years in Kaiser, so the first coaches I had would have been in Kaiser. So there was a guy named Thomas was my little league coach, and then the big coaches at the high school there was Fred Tack Clark, was one of the biggest coaches in West Virginia. He was in the Hall of Fame. He won several state football championships.
What was his name?
Fred Tack Clark. They called him Tack Clark. He won like 250 some football games, and then he was also the baseball coach. So that's where I started in organized baseball. But basically, Dad, there wasn't all these fancy clinics and stuff you went to then. You just they showed you how to. The old people showed you how to play.
Well, you lived in Weston for a little while.
1 year, yeah. We went to Weston. Actually, Chester Roberts that owns the Blue Ridge Funeral Homes and stuff.
Yeah.
He started a funeral. He started a cemetery in Weston and then one in Kaiser. And Dad ran these offices. The people that sold you sell the cemetery plots and stuff. That's what we did he did it for a year in Weston, and then we went to Kaiser, and then. That's that kind of job. It's good for a while, but then when you sell all the, you start selling, it's hard to make your money. So Dad had to come. We come back here, and he went back to work in insurance.
Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, I have had two sisters. They're both passed away, Nancy and Jean Ann, and then my brother's. He's 12 years younger than me, Robbie. And he was a good athlete there at Independence, and then he played softball with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think the 1 year at Independence, he lettered in cross country, golf, football, basketball, baseball, and track. He was a big time track runner. I don't know if you remember the Ivan Phillips or something, big. He'd race him. They'd have leans in the half mile and the mile, but Robbie quit doing it as he continued to play baseball.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And what's Robbie doing now?
He works for the state or the assessors. I don't know if it's the state or the county. He went back and forth. He does appraising the properties and stuff, the values of coal mines and things like that for the assessors type thing.
Now, what grade were you in when you come back to?
11th. I came back in I think 64, 65, 66, 67. Yeah, somewhere in the middle, 64, 65, and I spent two years at Stoco. I graduated Stoco in 1967.
And you played football,
basketball, baseball, and track.
Who was your football? Was
Coach Castanon and Coach Arbaugh. Back then, most of the schools like that, they only had two coaches. And like say, Coach Castanon was the head football, and then Coach Arbaugh helped him, and then vice versa. Coach Arbaugh was the basketball coach, and Coach Castanon was and then in the spring, Coach Castanon did the baseball, Coach Arbaugh did the track. Actually, that's where I started coaching. After I graduated in 67, I went to Beckley College, so I would come back, and I just lived right below the school, so I would come and help them in football and basketball. Coach Castanon didn't care much for the basketball, so I did the JV when I was 18 years old, and I also helped coach with the football. Yeah.
And you graduated in 67.
Right. And Joe and them graduated in 68. I was a year ahead of them, but we're the same age.
Okay. Now, played baseball with the American Legion team with Joe Goddard and that bunch from Sophia, and then they had 3 or 4 guys from Beckley.
Yeah.
Chubby.
We had Chubby Hughes, Steve Linklater, Gene Gilkerson, and Bill Burgess.
Okay.
And we had from Stoco, myself, Okie Calvert, and the 2 Smyer brothers, Jerome and Roger Smyer. And then you had Coach Don Neff, J.C. Jones, Neil Hawkins, Louis Pernesti, Johnny Cook. I'm probably going to leave somebody out, but we had about 15, and they were all really good players. Actually, some of them didn't get to play a lot, but we were so good that, on any other team, every one of them would have played somewhere. Most of them could have played in college, but, 5 of them went to Marshall.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Now they won state championship, and then you guys went to New Jersey.
New Jersey, and we went to Bordentown, New Jersey, and played. And actually, the one team that we played up there was Lyndhurst, New Jersey, and the catcher on that team was the quarterback on Marshall's team that got killed on the plane crash.
Really?
We played against him. I can't think what his name was now, but he was the quarterback but he was a big catcher for them up there.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. American Legion team. You're a coach. What would have been your best lineup on that American Legion?
Our team?
Yeah.
Well, like I say, Joe Cott, Gene Gilkerson played first. I played second. Pernesti played short. Linklater played third. J.C. Jones played left. Chubby played center, and Don Neff played right. And then when Chubby pitched, Neil Hawkins played in the outfield. And I mean, it was really strong. And just like I say, Chubby was a switch hitter, threw about 80 miles an hour when he pitched. J.C. Jones went to the pro games. They thought they'd run that 60 yards. He running at about 6'6". He hit a home run out of Watt Powell Park with the wooden bat. These kids here can't hit him out with the aluminum bat. That was a real baseball team. I mean, these kids nowadays, that may have been the best team. I mean, I'm prejudiced, but that may have been probably the best team around.
Well, Kent Martin.
Kent was, that was the one I left out. He was a great, he was a great pitcher. Yeah. We had, Kent was the lefty and Chubby was the righty, and then it just like when they showed up, it was if you could score a run or two, you didn't lose. We lost twice. I think we were 42-2. We got beat by Marmette 2-1. I think it was like a boy named Jim Lett that was in the Cincinnati organization for years. He played some, but he was the bench coach. He may still be in the Cincinnati Reds organization. And we got beat by Parkersburg one time, and then again it was like 3-2 or 2-1. See, Parkersburg had the shortstop on that team was Steve Swisher.
Oh, I remember.
That's Nixon and his daddy. See, he played for the Cubs for about 10 years, so that was a big time team. But the team that come down there was kind of surprised that me and Joe always laugh about it. They took 4 teams, and they brought Morgantown come down there, and we drew them in the first round. And the newspaper they're like 32-0, and they got all these low ERAs and big batting averages, and we come down there in the first inning, get 16 or 18-0, and I hollered out there, "Who you guys been playing?" Because we spanked them like they wasn't even there, So but we had a really great team. And like I say, we ended up beating Parkersburg for the state championship that year.
Sophia and Beckley had to, back then all the teams played each other in high school when they come out of the region, and they always had to play in the section
against each other. Yeah,
somebody got left home. I think Beckley went the region 1 year, and then Sophia went 2 years out of the. Now
the year we played, we didn't play many games our senior year. We got beat by Mullins. Jerry McKinney was a big time. They beat us. Calvert was a good pitcher for us. We got beat 2-1 in 10 innings. But then, we had Okie and myself and the Smyer. We had pretty good baseball, but then Sophie had Kent and all those guys there, and then Beckley. I think when I played, Beckley had Freddie Lewis, and there was Klaus Boy was the big pitcher for Beckley back in. I think Lewis wasn't at the car lot people. He was a big time shortstop. That was 19. See, I was a year, that was 67. See, Joe and them went to the state tournament in 68. And we won the state championship in the summer of 68 when the Legion team.
Yeah.
See, back then, I started the first grade when I was 5. I played my senior year of football at 16, turned 17 in January and graduated in June. These kids nowadays, the red shirts sometimes are 16 years old in the 9th grade.
Yeah.
So that was a big difference too. There wasn't no kindergarten, so you went straight into the first grade. So, you probably were the same way, 16 or 17 when you graduated.
Yeah, I was 17 in college.
Yeah.
And, I coached some kids that were 19 in high school.
Yeah. That's what I came back and played in the alumni basketball game, and, 2 of the kids that I was playing against were older than I was. I was already in college at 17,
At that time, that year makes a big difference.
Well, people could talk about the sports and stuff and holding kids back. I actually think it would be good for everybody. So if a kid going 18 to 19 to the first year of college, he may last longer than he does when he gets away from home at 17 and stuff like that. You're a little bit older, a little bit more mature. But, society's pretty tough out there now.
After you went into service after high school.
Well, what happened was, I was big into baseball like everybody else, and a couple of local scouts, said I had a good chance. I went to 2 or 3 of the local tryouts. Back then, he didn't have these big ones. They'd have like one on Saturday, like at Beckley, but then like Pittsburgh would call and say, we want you to come down to Watt Pile Park, and it'd be like 15 or 16 of them. And they act like I had a good chance. So I didn't go back to Beckley College the second year. And see, Vietnam and everything was still going on, and I lost my 2S for not having to go in the Army. So I got drafted, but it was not by Pittsburgh, it was by Uncle Sam. And so by the time that I, 2 more years would have put me up at about 20. And back then, if you was that age, you wasn't going to if they didn't get you early and get you into college, they didn't want you, So I went ahead and took an extra year, and I got guaranteed a school, and I went to Germany for 3 years. I spent 29 months. So
is that how it kept you out of Vietnam?
Yeah, well, they guaranteed me I didn't have to go to Vietnam. It was the tail end of Vietnam. I was 70 to 73.
Yeah,
but still, I preferred to go over there. So that was a big deal for me. Like that, here I'm, Coal City. The only time I was ever out of West Virginia, we went to the baseball thing. So, I got to go to Paris, France, London, England. Pretty good deal.
Did you play any sports in the service?
That's all I did. I lucked out like everything else. When I got to Germany, they had the post teams and stuff like that. So I played on the post football and basketball, and they had fast pitch softball back then. That's how I met my wife. Her dad was a career man in the military, and I talked to him at a ball field, and she had a couple of brothers that were like Babe Ruth age, and he asked me to start helping them coach. So on top of playing for the post team, and I was coaching the young people, so I was coaching, officers, kids, and everything else. So I got cut slack because I would take them around and play. So that's how I met my wife, was through the sports and stuff like that.
And when you got out of the military, you went to Concord?
I come back, and I went 1 year to Beckley College before I dropped out. So we went over to Beckley College, and they fixed my, showed what I had to have. I went the first year to Beckley College, and then I went to Concord for 2 years, and I graduated in 1976 from Concord.
Did you play ball at Concord?
I played, well, they wanted me to punt, and then they wanted me to play baseball, but I was already, 23 years old, so I went and made the golf team. I played golf for Concord, and actually they had bowling, so I was on the bowling team too. So that's how I lettered in golf and bowling over there. So
now that's one of the things a lot of people don't know about you. I mean, you're a pretty good bowler, and I can remember seeing your name in a paper with Smokey Clay and that bunch.
Yeah, I used to bowl with all of them. Well, Jerry Hickman and Phil Honecker, we were all in those leagues over there. And wives.
Do you still bowl?
No, my knees. I can't bend over. I had to bounce it. I can just barely play golf. But we used to do the moonlight bowling with the women and stuff. It was real fun. But and again, I was real fortunate. You know, God's a funny fella. He gave me a lot of talent and a lot of sports, but he didn't give me no body to go with it. You know, so I've been able to compete in a lot of sports and everything. But that's all I've done is play my whole life. I'm still playing. You know.
Well, that was one of the things I wanted to point out. That I mean, I've seen you play softball, and I know you played golf and bowling and the eye-hand coordination you got is unbelievable.
I was real fortunate. Like I say, I could do most of the specialized stuff. You know, I could catch the ball or I could hit. You know, and I self-taught myself with everything. You know, back when I started playing golf, we didn't have no money. You know, the place. You know, I had a starter set of clubs that you got for like maybe $50. It was like a 1, 3, 7, and 9, and you got a 3-wood and a driver, and that's all I had. You know, so, and then he went to Cool Ridge because the guy let you play for $6. And I always tell the guys, you know, when I play golf and stuff, now they worry about their scores. I said, when I played with my dad, I said, it didn't matter what you shot as long as you come home with more balls than you started with. That was the most important thing because you didn't have any money to lose the ball.
When Steve Wood owned that place out there at Cool Ridge,
yes, right.
He was that was kind of the way I was. I was always looking in the weeds to see if I could find more balls. But you actually have the course record out there, don't you?
Yeah. I learned how to play when I come back from the Army. You know, I was going to Beckley College, so I'd stay around the house, and I'd go out there and at like daylight, and I'd play until dark. I could play 7 or 8 rounds, but I was carrying the bag, and it took me 45 minutes, so I got to where I could play it pretty good. And the thing about the record was, I used to play with my dad. I just happened to be playing with somebody else that day, so they couldn't say I was cheating, you know. So Harry Davis, I think was his name. He lived out there. He was one of Steve's buddies, you know.
Yeah.
And the first round I shot 30, and then come back the next time and I shot 29. You know, that was only a par 34 course. It wasn't that, and it was real short and everything like that. So I was tickled to death. But the greens were. Sometimes they were almost like putting in a yard, you know. So it was, I played it so many times, and it just all worked together. Because usually the first 2 or 3 holes were a little easier, and actually when I shot the 29, I birdied the last 5, you know, so I chipped in it twice. It was just luck, you know, but they can't take it away because it's gone now.
Yeah, you can't. I think there's a house sitting there.
Well, I think that's the daughter's house. What they did was her and her husband, they were the only ones left, or her mom. They sold it to somebody else with the ideal that they could build that house and live in it until they're gone. So somebody else is working it now. It's a farm, I believe, is what they tell.
I tried to lease that thing one time when they were going to close it. I tried to lease it for a year just to see if I could do anything, but they weren't interested in doing that. Pond,
there were some super big old fish you'd see in there walking around that big
pond.
Yeah. Oh my goodness!
But now you. Your first coaching job, when you become a full-time teacher,
right?
You coached wrestling.
Yeah, that was the deal I got with the job. But Mr. Burtis was on the board of it. Charlie Burtis was big over in our area, and he would take care of us. He would help us get jobs. The deal was I had to be the wrestling coach, you know, and that's probably one of the few sports I didn't know much about. Now at Kaiser, they had wrestling. They actually had some really good wrestlers up there. And I would watch it, you know, and I knew a little bit about it. But what happened was my good friend John McComas was there. I rode to school with him all the time. So he said he would help me. And what we did was, I think Frank Rakes might have been the coach that started at Independence. We just went out there and said, look, we don't know anything about wrestling. We can condition these kids and stuff. And he would send us a senior each day, a different one, and they would teach the moves. And we sat there and watched them. You know, John stayed in it. I was the coach probably for about 3 or 4 years, and then the basketball changed, so I went to the basketball. John stayed with the head coach there for a while, and then he went out and helped at, I think he helped at Independence for a while.
Now, Mancuso...
He was there for 1 year, and he moved to Liberty.
Yeah.
That's how I took his job, because I think he became the high school wrestling coach out there.
Yeah.
And I was like 4 years, you know. We had good team. We never won the county championship, but we won a lot of matches, you know.
Yeah, y'all had some pretty good kids.
Yeah.
I remember the Nelson kid was a little later. He was pretty tough.
But one of the ones I remember, he was either refereeing or the Shady had the little McMillans, and Beckley had the little Tonys. I had a little fella named Jay Lattermilk that just busted them all in the middle school league like that. He was just tough as nails. He won the county championship, you know. But when he went to the high school, I don't think he stayed with the wrestling to me. Yeah. School wasn't his forte.
I took Jay we went to Parkersburg one time. We took an all-star team and went up there. And I think it was the first time he'd ever seen the Capitol.
It's probably, you're right.
We went by the Capitol. Yeah. And then he went with us to Pittsburgh to a camp. And I took those guys. That's when they had Willie Sturgill and those guys playing for Pittsburgh. And I told them all, we got there real early during batting practice because I had a better chance of catching baseballs. And I said, now I've been going to games for years. And I said, I ain't never got a baseball. And I said, chances are you probably won't get one, but you got more of a chance running around, before the crowd. And that daggone Jay got two.
Well, if it was somebody to fight for one, he would. Now, pound for pound, he was the toughest little boy I ever had there. He had no fear. I can remember the McMillans, they hated Jay, and he beat them all the time, and he'd beat them during the regular season. We go to the county tournament. Here comes Shady's whole team meeting us at the door, and McMillan gets up in Jay's face, and you're going down today, And Jay pinned him in about 30 seconds. He jumped up. He said, you might as well stay down. I don't beat you again, boy. So he didn't have any fear of anybody. But,
I haven't heard anything from him. I'm not sure what's happened to him. But now you've coached not just a long time. I mean, you've coached multiple sports. I mean, wrestling.
I coached it. Well, that's Stoco Jr. I was assistant football, wrestling, boys and girls track, and then also basketball. And then I finished up at basketball out there. Then I coached football, baseball, and basketball at the high school, and I also coached a little basketball down. It was Independence Junior High, not middle school. And I think we've coached Perkins, and I figured it out. I'm probably over maybe 2,000 events and over 5,000. Well, 48 years. I'm getting ready to start my 48th year, and probably 35 of them I coached 3 sports, and I never coached less than 2. That's plus teaching for 35
What you do in your spare time?
Well, I got to get my golf in, and I used to play 150 softball games in the summer too, But I told you, I've had a great life as far as until I look in the mirror, I'm still 15 years old playing,
I can remember you talking about in around 2006, you were talking to the newspaper and saying, I've had a great life, and if thinking about retiring, well, that was 18 years ago.
Exactly.
You're still coaching.
I just only got 2 loves, my family and sports. I don't do anything else. Trying to think, well, since I promised my wife after I retired, we've been on 10 cruises. But, I go, but I like the casinos. But, fat guys and sand don't get along on them beaches and stuff like that. But, it's a lot of fun, and I owed her that much, as far as, like I say, she's actually on a cruise with her family in Alaska, but I ain't going, it's too cold up there. I'm staying here. We're going on another one next month and going back to Aruba and stuff like that. But, I've done that, but I didn't go to bars or anything like that. I met her in 1971, and next Friday will be 49 years. Wow.
Now, what kind of music did you listen to when you was growing up?
Not much. It wasn't, if you're lucky if you had a transistor radio. But, I grew up in Coal City and places like that. It was just, pure country type stuff, basically, I still just listen to the country. I listen to the highway most times if I'm going back and forth or anything. I wasn't much on, in TV there wasn't much.
Yeah.
So you only had 2 or 3 channels. If these kids talk about, TV and they talk about phones and stuff, I said, I was on the party line. You know, did you have the party line where you had to listen? You had two shorts and a long. You know which one to pick up, and they always talk about the gossip. You could pick up and listen to anybody talking on the things.
Yeah, we had Clifford. Our numbers were Clifford 2, 304, something like that.
You had to listen for the beeps, and if it's two longs and a short.
Yeah,
you had to listen for it to make sure you knew which. Unless you had a little more money, then you could be on a private line. But we didn't have that.
And I had first transistor radio I ever got. I'd go to sleep at night and listen to the Reds play, and I couldn't keep batteries in it because it'd still be playing in the morning. You know, I'd go to sleep with the thing on, but listen to you at one time you were playing baseball in the industrial league and softball.
Yeah, well, when I come back from the Army, you know, they came and got Willie Joe and those guys, Bob Cernuto, they got me to play baseball. But, you know, you never had the same players. You never practiced. And you can't play baseball without practice. I mean, you can play slow pitch softball when they're throwing it underhanded. But I got away from the baseball, and then I just stayed strictly with the softball probably from 1973. And I was still playing when I was 50, you know.
Yeah,
we had some really fun times with that too. You know, we won 10, 15 state championships, and we played all over the East and stuff like that. It was different. The equipment was different. You know, the balls didn't go. These kids nowadays, out there at Fitzpatrick, I go out there and try to watch my son, and they're hitting them in the creek on every pitch. They don't even run to first base. You know, you can't hardly hit the pitcher, the balls and stuff. So I started out at the factory out there where John W.I. is. It was 250-foot fence with a day-night Dudley and a wooden bat. You had maybe one guy could hit it over the fence. You'd play 2-1 games and 3-2 games, things like that. But
I didn't know what the softball is like now. I know when I was involved, I ran the league for 2 or 3 years. Last couple of years up here in Beckley, and then when we went down to Fitzpatrick, and we'd have 30 teams in an open league. We'd have 16 in the church, 8 in the women's, and then on Sunday night we had an industrial thing just on Sunday.
I remember that.
It was 7 days a week, tournaments. We were required. Everybody was required to wear uniforms. The umpires had to be in umpire dress. I mean, it was well organized.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
And it was, and on a state level, I mean. I was the regional commissioner, and I think just in our region we had 60 teams.
Yeah, they went to USSSA, ASA, and then you had the classifications like they started putting you in A, B, C, and D based on what kind of talent you had and stuff like that. Yeah. It was really, really competitive and stuff. But now it's kind of gone downhill. The kids have gone the other directions, just 4-wheelers and everything else. The young people are not in as much. They have, I think, a church league, and they have I don't know if they have a regular men's league anymore. And they got into the co-eds more.
Yeah,
they'll call my son to go out there and play with them a little bit, stuff like that. But you got to watch, because some teams are real good and some aren't. And you got like Mark can really hit the ball hard, and like you got girls down there playing third base, women playing third base stuff. It's kind of scary.
I didn't know whether the balls were that lively or not.
It's just like golf.
Really?
The reason we can play golf is because they jacked up, you're hitting with them aluminum shafts and them big heads, and we can still hit the ball far enough to play. Softball's the same way, and then you put them in a hand of it's just like watching those college kids hit with those aluminum bats. It's the same thing. So it's almost, I think in a lot of places they're putting a screen in front of the pitcher because it's so dangerous that the ball comes off the bat. Out, at Fitzpatrick, you always used to have the 4 kind of dirt spots where the outfielders played. They play 2 feet from the fence now, and the infielders play back so far that they try not to get hurt.
I didn't know that.
They're just the balls and bats are just, the bats are $400 or $500, just like a golf club now.
Now, when you were playing, you guys had that Skyland Construction, and then Wilkes, and you played with Spartan some, and then did you play with Tabors?
Yeah, he come and got me the one year we won the state champion, the Open and stuff. And
he was picking up guys from everywhere.
Cincinnati, Ohio, and Logan. And he had probably one of the best players blooper, what they call, he was from down around
Denny McClure.
Denny McClure. That's the best all around that I probably played with. And then the boy brought from Cincinnati was named Timmy Clemens. He was similar to Blooper, but Blooper could hit it 400 feet. He'd stand 5 feet behind the shortstop. And you try to hit it over his head, he'd run and get it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was serious. That was big time and stuff. But I played. Started out over the old Wilkes team, Big Sid and J Ball and all that bunch. I was in high school actually, and the old team down at Firecoat. That was when they played out at the factory, and they knocked on the door one day and said, "We don't have enough. Can you come with us and play?" And he happened to be playing Wilkes that day, and for some reason Wilkes couldn't. I was playing shortstop, and he hit a lot of balls to me, and they had won like 60 games in a row, and Firecoat beat them. Big Sid threw the bat over the fence, and they just cussing and raising Cain. And the next day, I get a knock on my door at Coal City, and there's J Ball and Hinkle wanting me to play with them. So I played with them until I went in the Army, and then I come back and I started playing. They changed that, Bob B, Willie Joe. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Some of these old people might know who I'm talking about, stuff like that. But I got a picture, 1970, right before I went in the Army, down at Mount Carbon. It's got Nicky Barasha and Willie Joe and Teddy Spadero and Hinkle. What's his name? Did the announcing over at the Army.
Oh, Carlos Gordon.
Carlos was with them. J Ball, Big C, and Burl. They're all in Mo. But there's like 14 of us in the picture, and I think seven or eight are gone now.
Wow.
That's 1970 of you got to see. So yeah.
I played the last few years. I played with Nick D'Angelo and that bunch over in Fayette County.
They were good.
Those guys like to play softball. Now we played in the Oak Hill League, the Beckley League. Played every weekend, and I mean we played anywhere from Beards Fork Holler to Charleston to anywhere.
Well, Big Sid, he always, Wilkes was big time back in. We go to them hollers. And Big Sid would say, "Look, I'll tell you, I can beat these turkeys and stuff like that. You didn't have to fight your way out of them hollers." But yeah, was that did Nicky Barasha come back? Was he playing with you all then?
He would just play every once in a while. He wasn't regular with us. He played with the Bank of Raleigh, I think, for a while.
He played with that. Well, Nick played with the original Wilkes team. He was the shortstop on the Wilkes team. He came down here, I think, from New York or something to get away from the draft, and he never left. He stayed here. He was with Nicky and him over at Oak Hill the whole time.
I spoke at his funeral.
Yeah, he was a cat.
He would come around his last few years. He'd always come up here, and he wanted to bet on a baseball game or something, and we were good friends, and he always wanted to talk a little softball, But I think he actually was going to play basketball at Beckley College or somewhere, and he ended up mainly a softball.
And we were in the intramural league over at Nicky and them was D'Angelo and them were over at Beckley College when I was, and I got with a bunch of them guys from New York, and we were playing, and here comes Nicky, and then he's got half a Mount Hope. They weren't even in Beckley College. But that's just the way it was. The Monet boys, Raymond Monet and all that. Now, that was the C&V wrecking team. That was the ones that hated. We always played J-Ball and them. That was real long time ago. That was the bunch from Mount Hope. Nicky was kin to them. Yeah,
Nick. Now, Monet's and the older Carmen D'Angelo, they had quit playing when I was playing. But we had Dana Thomas and some of them guys. We had a pretty reputable team. I mean, not nothing. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing. Now, let's go back to your coaching. When I know you started out at Independence coaching under Wayne Peters.
Football.
Football.
I was Coach Castanon retired there and stuff. Coach took the head job, so I came from Stoco out to him. I was his assistant for 6 years, and the first 2 years were, kind of tough. I think we won 2 and 3 games, and then we had the next year we had the Mark Nelson, the one you talk about wrestling. There was about 8 or 9 of them at Stoco that went undefeated in the 8th and 9th grade. When they got there, Then you had James Shoup and some of the boys from over Sophie all came at the same time, and that was when we went 6-4, 6-4, and then we went the undefeated team. And the last year he coached, we went 8-2. Yeah.
Now, is that the year they lost to Jed Drennan?
Yes, we were ahead 19-0.
I saw that game. I saw that game.
And they put two big old tackles on the same side, and Drennan didn't even beat us, and they just ran the ball. And we weren't, for a really good football team, we didn't have Shoup was the biggest kid we had. Like, Nelson them was around 180, 190. They were tough kids and stuff like that. They had two big tackles, and they put them on the same side, and we just couldn't slow them down. And they made the extra point with about 30 seconds to go, beat us 20-19.
Wow. Now, you took over after Peters left?
Yeah, 1988 football season, 88, 89, I believe.
And you were the coach there for almost 20 years?
25.
25?
Head coach, yeah.
Wow. And you got in the playoffs several times, but you couldn't quite get out of that?
No, it was we made it 7 times. One with Coach Peter, that was the only time he made it. And then I was 7 myself. And then Coach Vickers took over, and I helped him 2. And then the first year Coach Lilly was there, I kind of helped a little bit with them, so I made it about 11 years. But we were always on the bottom. Most of the time we were on the bottom end, 15 or 16 playing 1 or 2. And
yeah.
We had good teams, but we just couldn't quite get over the hump and stuff. Like we got beat 6-0 by Wyoming East one time. We got beat 20-18. Tulsa beat us one time like 20. We played them real close, but we just couldn't quite get over the hump like that.
Now you weren't afraid to change anything. I mean, you ran anything from single wing to no huddle to
run it all. I mean, actually, everybody always said we ran the football, but I always felt like on our level, you had to take the players and you had to adjust to them. If I got 5 big linemen and 2 or 3 big backs, there was no need me trying to throw the football. So we would do it. But even when I started in junior high out there, we come out and played. I'd split 3 receivers out, in 1975 or 76. They didn't know what was going on. Back then, if something fancy was flanking somebody, But we also run the full house. When I had the 9-1 team, we run the old wing straight T. We run for 3,000 yards. I had 3 big backs, we ran for 3,000 yards inside the end. But we could throw the ball. And when my son played, we threw it some. Timmy Justice was a really good quarterback. I had Timmy and a boy named Freddie Tastic, and then we had some pretty good athletes with them. We made the playoffs. In the regular season, Greenbrier West beat us 38-6, and we go up there in the playoffs, and it's nothing going into the fourth quarter. We weren't afraid to change anything. We didn't do books. We would show the kids formations, and we would say sweep. We could teach them names, sweep, and then we had. We say hit, just like we say fake 25, hit Joey on an out. We didn't have to come up with all these fancy numbers, stuff like that. We'd split 3 this way, and we put our best receiver over here, and back then we'd be 1-on-1. If you come up and press, we threw it over his head. If he stayed back, we threw hitch and just got the ball. If 25 lead means the 2 backs getting it through the 5 hole and somebody's in front of him. If it's 26 power, that means there's 2 in front of him. Or scissors means one guy goes this way and one guy goes that way instead of big time terminology. You're working with a lot of kids that are really good athletes, but they didn't really know they played football, but sometimes they didn't really know how to play football.
Yeah.
They just do what you tell them. Funny one story there. When my son was playing out of Stoco, and Coach Austin and them were coaching the guys, and they were working on plays. And they said, we want to run 25 dive. Okay. And the boy said, I can run that play, Coach. They handed the ball off. He dived. So you're working with kids that are really great athletes, but they don't really they don't really work on football. Yeah. They just play football because you tell them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you mentioned adjusting to what you're going to run to your kids' talent. And I always respected a coach like Homer Criddle. He used to be down South Charles and then went to Greenbrier East. And he would, I asked him one time, Coach, what y'all going to run this year? And he said, well, it depends on what we got. Right. And he said, he said, I'm not going to run out of the eye if I don't have a big, because somebody can hold the block and somebody can get there and this and that. And he won a lot.
Well, I won more than I lost, and we didn't have no we didn't have any recruits. I was there 25 years, and I keep thinking back through. I don't remember anybody coming to play for us. Maybe occasionally a kid would move from out of state to play, but we didn't have like what they do now. But you got kids coming.
What do you think about that now? The players can move one time.
Well, I mean, the only thing about it is that it's fair to everybody. Okay, because the other way they're just gonna, the parents get separated, or they move in a house over here, or just if the ones that got money can do what they want. So at least, but when you, like, say 5 kids moves into our school and they come in and play, that's 5 positions. The kid's been there all their life and don't get a play.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to win, and I played everything I do. I play to win, but I didn't put winning over trying to teach kids right and wrong and responsibilities and things. I thought that was just as important. Make them come to practice and things like that nature. It wouldn't be bad if they come as freshmen, and they're there for the whole time. But you got kids that come in as seniors, or they don't like this coach and they don't like that coach, and there's recruiting going on. I mean, we got Scott's team this year, the baseball team. We had a great year with a bunch of little kids in baseball. We had 8 freshmen. It was like 14, 15 years old. We only had 14 kids, and we make it to the state finals. But we had 2 kids that came from Beckley, but we didn't even know who they were. They got, I guess they didn't like what was going on or something, and they came to us, and they fit right in with our kids, but we didn't recruit them or anything. But, soon as nowadays, though, if somebody comes to you, you're automatically cheating, you're automatically, and it doesn't, it does. I mean, there's people recruiting everywhere. I think the Valley's the worst one. Some of them teams down there got St. Albans and then South Charleston, they were some of the biggest, athletes in the state, and now they can't beat anybody, because all their players went to Hurricane and places like that. But, like last year, I think we had maybe 7 or 8 kids from different schools on our teams, but it's fair to everybody. But, back when we were growing up and stuff, like I say, if a kid from Shady or Trap Hill came to our place, they'd probably get run off.
Yeah.
It was loyalties to your school and everything. Just like, that's what I tell the people. I believe red, white, and blue. I've been there the whole time, and I could have went to different places. My sons have had they've had offers to go to other schools, but we're loyal to the area. When you was growing up, just like when I was growing up, you probably were with coaches. If you played sports, the coaches was probably just as much involved in your life as your parents was, because they were working and stuff like that. So they was always there. Somebody when I was growing up. So when I couldn't play pro ball or anything like that, I came back so they helped the kids in our area. So I've had a good time.
Well, that's I grew up in a single family home, and the coaches that I had was the main male figure
exactly
in my life, and I was lucky that I had real good coaches, good people, good coaches, and very fortunate. And I'll never forget that. I didn't get to thank all of them. I wish I had, but. Another thing I want to point out, too, that when you were coaching all these sports teams at the high school and stuff, you also coached Little League, American League.
Yeah, I coached a little bit of everything in the summer. I coached my kids in the summer, I helped them. But, if somebody called and asked me to come help, show them how to field, I didn't even pay for it. I mean, I'll help anybody a little bit. That's turned into a big time business nowadays. Though that you put a sign up and you're teaching these kids, you're going to teach them how to. The biggest. That's great. I like them, people working with them and stuff. But sometimes they make them feel like these guys. I can make you a superstar.
Yeah.
And as long as you give me that $50 a week, I'm going to teach your kid how to be a superstar. That don't work.
It's hard for them to accept.
But you have to sell it. You have to sell it though to get them to come back. But I'm sitting there. I've been doing this like say 48 years, and we've had one boy went to Division I in baseball. We've had maybe one football player, Alan Thomas. I don't know if you remember him. He was a big timer. Yeah. He went to Virginia Tech, and then. Other than those, Eric Thomas went to Marshall, but they were 1AA. We've never had a Division I basketball player. We've had about 5 or 6 Division I wrestlers, and when my son Mark, he was pretty good. He was all state in 2 sports, and we went to D3 schools. He was 6 foot tall and benched 300 pounds stuff, and I got parents want me to send the West State. They don't know what it is. They've never been to these around. Walk in the West Virginia locker room and see these guys 6'8" and runs 4'9". What it takes to go to that level, it's just amazing that.
What do you think about the 4 classes in most of the sports?
Well, I mean, when they come up with it, it sounds really nice. It was supposed to make everybody more competitive, but some way or another, they didn't like our area. They put 5 teams in our section and 9 in our region. We only had 4 and 4. Plus we got to try. We had to play AAA in basketball the last couple of years, but we're basically a AA school. Okay, so they moved us to AAA, and they put Greenbrier East, Princeton, Shady, Pikeview, and us in one section. On the other side is Herbert Hoover, Sissonville, Nicholas County, and Ripley. And Ripley's 2 hours from us, so how that's going to make us, Hoover's been 3-time state softball champion, Greenbrier East has been there competitive. Princeton just played for the state football championship in 3A, and some of them down there have like 3 in each side. How's that fair? How'd that help us?
I couldn't understand some of the. I understand enrollment. That's not a problem. But then when they start, how did Bluefield end up double A?
Well, I mean, we got to play AAA.
Yeah.
And that's Bluefield. It may not be a big town, but Bluefield, Virginia is right on the other side. That's another thing too. If you look, I don't know if you know, it's the teams that drop down that are there every year. Just like when Fairmont East, and Bridgeport drops to AA, they're in everything. Even Nicholas County, when Nicholas was AAA, they couldn't get anywhere. When they dropped to AA with us, they make the football playoffs 8 out of 10 years. Plus, if you look, the border schools, the teams that are, the Panhandle schools, like you go to the Northern Panhandle, there's Ohio and Pennsylvania sitting 2 minutes away. You go to Martinsburg and Jefferson and them. That's all those people coming from D.C. It's in there. They done changed those schools about 4 times.
That Eastern Panhandle's growing, and Southern West Virginia is smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
When I was at Woodrow, we had 3 grades and had 2,000 students.
Exactly.
And now it's 4 grades and about 11 or 1,200 students.
Now that's what with the people transferring. Like I always felt like kids at Woodrow back then. You had 2,000. You had kids walking your hallways that could be all state athletes at our place or Shady or Trap Hill and never played anything.
Yeah,
I can see kids moving like that, stuff like that. But the biggest thing I tell people now to get mad at, if you're coaching a team, you're coaching a team sport in the me world. Everybody's me. The ESPN, they all see all this stuff on TV, and they all think their kids are going everywhere. And a kid can score 20 points and get beat by 50. He's tickled to death. He can score 2 and win by 2. He's mad. They want to bat first and play shortstop. Or they're hitting in a 9 hole and they're hitting 125 and the coach gives them the take sign on 3-0 and they get mad. It's all. I mean, that life has changed now to the point. When we were growing up, like you're walking down the hallway and Coach Allbaugh says, "I need 1 more for the 400 relay. Can you do it for me today?" You sure, Coach, we'll do it. Or you tickled to death to get that jersey.
Yeah.
Now, that they don't even want to wait a year and learn. A lot of times they'll wait 2 years and come out as a junior because they knew they couldn't play varsity. And, that society's changed like that too.
Well, when I played Babe Ruth baseball, the only all-star team we had at first was a 14, 15-year-old all-star team. And then they went to a 13-year-old. Now they got 3 all-star teams basically. But I wanted to ask you, what they do with Stoco High School now? What's going on there?
It just sits there. They got a couple buildings in the back where a couple guys got some. They meet the seniors, eat there 1 day a week, and it used to be a bingo hall. That's where Coast City played their bingo, but I think the rent got on it too much. They hold their reunion there, but it's just basically the post office is right there, part of it, and then those were the new rooms that they added on before it got burnt down. Is what's left up there on that end. But
so the gym's not there.
The gym is there, yeah, but I don't think they play any ball. At one time, they had batting cages and stuff in there where they had one of those hitting places in there too. But it's kind of run down a little bit now. I don't know, the county may have bought it because see, they own the football field and stuff out there too now. But it's sad. But that one, I think some company bought Sophia's down there too. They were, I think Thomas Bowers, his boy's going to West Virginia. He lifts weights at the old Sophia Elementary up there. He rents out part of that, and they my grandson, he goes up there and lifts with them and stuff. The baseball kids
I
go up
know
there.
what they had done with that. Now you've won in all the sports you've played. You've won several, of course, awards and titles, and got to mention. I mean, I can remember they just had the B&I golf thing.
Yeah.
I remember you playing in the B&I and shooting low 70s.
I only played in it 1 year, but I was in the championship flag with the big boys and stuff like that, you know.
But you've won Coach of the Year with the Coalfield Conference, all those things.
Right.
But all the coaching, all these years of coaching, you're starting your 48th year. You've been through teacher strikes. You've been through the year we had smoke during football season that didn't know whether he was going to play or not. You've had COVID. You've been through the COVID.
Yeah, we was getting ready on the bus to go to the regional finals in basketball, and they called us off in the COVID year.
You've seen it all.
Yeah, it's been a good run. I mean, I've seen a lot of the changes, just like the fields. You know, when we first started at Independence, we didn't even have a field. You played 3 games at Sophia and 2 games at Stoco, reversed it for 5 years. We had no place to practice. We practiced in that little hollow down there where the elementary school is. We didn't have nothing. Then when the field was finally built, it was built on about 3 inches of dirt. It was just pure red dog. You know, our kids, we used that as as an advantage. We told our kids that if you knock these boys come in here, it's got all them big fancy fields. If you knock them down, they ain't gonna like it. So we called it the red dog. You know, we didn't have anything. So, and probably playing on those fields and the muddy nights and stuff. If we had the turf, we could have probably won some more games because there was nights after 2 touches that you couldn't see anybody. It was just pure slop. Plus, you can practice on it in wet. You know, if you go out there on a wet day with the mud, you couldn't have any place to practice. We practice baseball on it. It's great for all the sports. We can go out there at 40 degrees and hit ground. We can do anything but take batting practice on it. You can mark the infield off, and you can take infield and outfield on it. All the turf field. I never believed that we'd have it, you know, in my lifetime. I just didn't think we'd get it, you know. But it's amazing. And all 4 of the schools have it too, so I think that's a big difference. We need another gym at Independence. I mean, the facilities now, you got cheerleading has become big. You know, you got the cheerleaders, you got boys and girls basketball. Sometimes Cliffy wants to bring the wrestling in there too. So, you know, the gym gets abused. You know, a lot of these schools, like I know Shady's got 2. They got the one that can do their phys ed stuff in, and they keep the nice one for all the games and everything like that. But it would be nice to have an extra facility. Our tennis courts, we got 2. We have to go someplace else to play tennis. You know, we needed upgrades, things like that. The baseball field, you know, Scott and them work on it, and Joe, you know, that was his baby. I mean, he still comes over and helps Scott. He loves that field and stuff like that. But
yeah, you're talking about facilities. Yeah. I mean, it's when I first started coaching wrestling, we practiced in the cafeteria.
Yeah. You had to move the chairs.
Had to move a table. And it was like, it just got to, we did it for years. And I didn't have a whole lot of room there, and then you'd have to carry the mat to the gym if you're going to have a home match and stuff. And
when I did it, we had the stage at the old Stoco Jim. You had to roll the mats up on the stage, and you know, they come rolling off. They could fly out on the floor. You had to guard when you're trying to show the wrestling moves and stuff. Yeah, it's a different ballgame.
But with all the memories, what keeps you going though? Working with your sons? I mean, that's got to be special.
Yeah, you know that's another funny thing. You know, Coach Lily's over there now, and when he was at Shady, he pretty much hated both Scott and Mark when they were seniors they beat Shady and now here he is, he's our coach and they're his assistants, things like that. But yeah, I got to coach them in the little league and then I coached them in high school and stuff, and then they go to college, they come back and help me, now I can help them. So that's been a pretty good deal. And I got my grandson. See, he's a really good kicker, and he was the second baseman on the baseball team.
Is it Micah?
Micah, yes,
Micah?
that's Scott's boy. Yeah, he kicked like 57 extra points last year, and then he made one field. He only got to kick one field goal, but then so he's playing travel ball right now. He's in Detroit, going to play baseball. He's playing baseball in Detroit, and then the other son, Mark's got two. Well, Micah's got a sister, Layla. She'll be coming to the high school this year. She's a nice volleyball player. She's a good volleyball player.
You might have to try coaching volleyball here.
Oh, I played it in college. I was a referee. That's when I did my. Me and an old boy over at Concord. He was from up in Pittsburgh. We did all the refereeing for the. You had to be a thug. We was older than him. You had to be a thug to referee them intramurals in college because that was tough. But I refereed volleyball and basketball. I've done a little bit of everything, but I've had a good life. Like I say, I can't complain. Like I said in that article years ago, whenever I go, I got my money's worth. I don't slow down very often.
Well, you once said, I expect them to play. You're talking about your athletes. I expect them to play with class, and I'll try to coach the same way.
Right.
I think you've done a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, I only got time to think. I got 3 penalties. I never got a technical in basketball. And in football, we got 3 unsportsmanlike. One of them was Joe, and Joe started messing with Coach McComas, and John wasn't even looking out there, and he hollered out there, and old Kirby, or one of the old referees, give him a penalty. And then we had those butt pads that they put in the pants. I don't know why, but kids didn't like to have them, and they checked them, and I got a penalty because I said, how was that unsportsmanlike? That's just dumb. But a couple of things like that's the only penalties I remember, And we argue with the official, but what we tell the kids, that's just giving them an excuse. I mean, there's bad calls all the time, but if you rant and you just harp on the call, the guy's cheating this and doing this, then they're going to use it as an excuse, So we try not to do that. There's old commercial comedy on TV, that old Chelsea, you ever watch that old guy talks funny? He always would say, class, not ass, so I write that on the board. That's the way we work, class, not ass, so when we teach the kids, when we take the baseball team, if they go in to eat, they have to take their hats off. They clean up behind themselves, I had 2 rules in football. One was you don't embarrass the team, the school, the coaching staff, yourself, or your parents. I was brought up that a child is an extension of your parents, so how you act reflects on them. I said, well, while I'm coaching you, you're mine. So the way you act reflects on me. So like I say, we always, and then the only other rule I had, you got to practice to play. Growing up with my kids, I was watching them. If you was a hero, you didn't have to, you can do what you want. You still got to play. When I took over the football, if you missed 1 day, you didn't start. You missed 2 days, it was a quarter. 3 days, a half. And if you didn't practice all week, you didn't play. You can bring an excuse in. If you're not there, you're not there.
Yeah.
And the worst team I had 1 year had 60 players, and we were 0-6. On that Monday of the 7th week, I had 60 players at practice because. Well, I'll tell one on my old buddy, old Eric Thomas, when he was a really good player for me. Senior year, I don't know if he got a little lazy or whatever, but he started, the trainer, he said, I can't play, today and not practice or nothing today because my foot's hurting. And I walked by the gym, and he's in there dunking the basketball. So on Friday night, we play Midland Trail. I don't start my best player. We get beat 3-0. We won 7 out of the last 9, and nobody missed practice a game. So, if you're going to set a rule, you have to set it for everybody. You prima donnas, you can't excuse them, but you can leave, but you don't want to have many rules because then you got to enforce them.
Yeah.
So that way, if a death in the family, one play, I can get him in the game, things like that. If it's constant, he don't come, then he eventually don't play, And we tried our kids, we didn't tear anything up, and I expected them. I don't want teachers. I said, I don't want teachers coming to me because, like I say, during football season, you got to be here. and you got to act right because, like I say, I mean, you're part of you. We want the football team to have basketball, whatever we're doing, to have class. And all the coaches over, Scott does it now, Coach Perkins, when we worked in the basketball, we all try. If anybody has played against us and stuff, they can not say that we tore their stuff up. I'm the last one out of the dressing room. I sweep up, I pick up all the bottles. We don't leave we never left anything, dirty when we leave. And that's the way Scott is. Now, things you do, you teach kids to come to practice, you teach them to be on time, you teach them to take care of the equipment. That's teaching life. Most people aren't going to work for themselves. They're going to have to work for somebody. They're going to have to work with somebody. And these kids nowadays, that's the biggest problem. They'll say, "Coach, I got a job." And Friday says, "I think I'll call in." I had about 500 sick days when I left the school system because I watched my mom and dad get up, go to work every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming and talking to us, and we can maybe I'll get you back sometime. Yeah. We got to tell a few more stories.
I got plenty of stories.
But I've enjoyed you being here, and like I said, I think you've influenced a lot of kids, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot of listeners for this, and come back anytime.
Anytime, just give me a holler.
All right, buddy. Yeah. And anybody else out there would like to be on our program, you can contact me at awbennett50@gmail.com, and we'll get you on here. And until next time, remember, if you're not dead yet, you're not done yet. This is Wayne Bennett. God bless you.